it only takes one property. To be fair, if you're looking for one property, there's plenty out there, and it just takes one decent one that you can maybe see the vision. It might be a fixer-upper, perhaps, or maybe it's slightly further afield than you expected, but certainly there's something out there.
Would you recommend people stay home a bit longer so they can save more?
If you can, if you have a good home life, obviously, at the time, did I understand it? No. Did I resent it? Yes. Was it the best thing? Yes, it was, because it set me up for later life.
So share with us your plan and how did you manage to save for a deposit? Welcome to another episode talk about property and lifestyle, and also a place where you get to learn more about how you either get involved in property or how you can also purchase your property. And we've got a guest today. Now, imagine it takes you 18 months to purchase your first home. Yeah, you heard me right, 18 months. Well, you're going to hear a real life story of a client that worked with us here at NHS Property, and it took 18 months to purchase her property. Welcome, Andrea. How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I know. When you think about it now, you're thinking...
It's insane. It's just insane.
Like it took that long. But Andrea, before we dive into the conversation, what is something about Andrea that people don't know about?
Oh, what a good question. I wish you'd told me so I could have prepared for this. What they don't know about. So I think people know me as like quite an extroverted person. But actually I can have my introverted moments. And I do like my space. So sometimes I do just kind of drop off the earth a little bit.
Nice.
And just enjoy me time. So
Nice. And what do you do for a living?
So I'm an NHS nurse at the moment.
Yeah, and how's that going? Because obviously, I know sometimes people have their say about the NHS, but for me, I will keep clapping for you guys. Because trust me, what you guys do. So I've used the NHS so many times. So, but sometimes I understand the appreciation is not there sometimes.
Yeah.
But hey, man, you guys are still doing a lot for people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a sentiment shared by most that work in the NHS. It's not a job for the faint-hearted. You definitely have to have a level of vocational calling to do a lot of what we do, and it's not a job you can just slack off. Like, you need to really love the job to do the job, otherwise you can earn just as much, if not more, doing something less stressful. So nice. Working in the NHS is very fulfilling, if not stressful, but I can't see myself doing anything else. So
wow, that's NHS, if you're ever watching this, you listen to it, you've got a great person working for you guys. So, Andrea, let's go back into time.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go back into time. So, before purchasing your first home, what actually inspired you to become a homeowner?
It's just one of those like milestones that kind of was I don't know if I want to use the word instilled, but something that definitely my family wanted us to achieve, me and my brothers, and you've already had my brother on here, and hopefully you'll have my other brother on here at some stage in life in the future. But the idea is that, we be independent people and contributing members of society, and have some level of like financial stability, I guess. Yeah. And one way of doing that is definitely like home ownership. Yeah. Plus, my mum, great role model, is a homeowner twice over. So why would I not want to emulate that?
Yeah, but it's not an easy thing. Let's be real.
Definitely not.
There are people who inspire to become homeowners in the UK, and not just in the UK, all over the world. I mean, I've traveled to different parts of the world, and when people ask me what I do for a living, and I share with them this is what I do for a living, it's interesting that it doesn't matter where they are. They're like, that's something I'd love to accomplish. I'm thinking, so there's a desire for people out there to become homeowners. Now, the government have done, they've put things in place, but sometimes I feel like people do see it as a milestone in their life, but it's just how to get started and how to literally achieve it.
Yeah.
So obviously you've now decided to become a homeowner. And did you rent for a long time?
I didn't rent for a long time purely because I was privileged. I was able to stay in my mother's house for a little while. What I did do is once I was getting towards getting married, I was like, oh, let me step out of my mother's home, be a bit independent, so that both me and my husband will come with a level of independence when we cohabitate and marry. But when I did rent, the renting market was like insane, and I was quite lucky actually, because I had the trust that I work for have like a subsidized housing complex type thing.
Okay.
So I was able to rent a studio for not too much, 700 and something, maybe just under £800 a month.
Yeah.
Which is cheap for London, very, very cheap for London. My husband was renting something similar at the time for about 1,000, and that even in itself is still quite cheap. But I had friends, I had colleagues, lots of people in my life that were renting a 1-bed, a 2-bed from upwards of 1,200, 1,300, 1,500 for the 2-bed really. And that was still considered, I mean, it depends on location, of course, in
Correct.
London, but that was still considered pretty decent. Like the more central you get, the crazier the prices are.
Yeah.
And this was like 5-6 years ago. So
Wow.
prices have definitely blossomed.
Yeah. And in terms of renting, was it a plan? I mean, did you have a plan after you decided, okay, I'm going to buy my own place? Did you put a plan in place in terms of saving? Because that's another thing. One of the key things people struggle with is the deposit.
Yeah.
And if you're buying in London, the houses are not cheap. The flats are not cheap.
Yeah.
Now, it's about how do you raise the deposit and the stamp duty to pay, depending on obviously the threshold. So, and as we're recording this right now, there's no stamp duty up to 425, but that might also change. So, and some of the houses in London are way more expensive than that. So share with us your plan and how did you manage to save for a deposit? Because it's not easy to, work, pay rent, have other commitments and still save for a deposit and still remain motivated to forget about the other things happening around your life and still decide, what, I'm going to purchase my home.
Yeah. Again, I was very privileged. I lived at home. I'm obviously born to a Ghanaian mother, and I mention it because she definitely instilled a level of lifestyle sort of tips in us as children. So her preference, it wasn't my preference at the time, but I was young and naive, was her preference was for us to stay at home and to save. And, obviously we'd contribute a little to the home, but like it's not the same as renting. A few £100 here is not anything like paying rent and bills and things like that. So I stayed at home for quite a few years, and then just pretty much saved the majority of my paycheck to ensure I had a deposit. I could have been a homeowner much earlier, but I also chose to travel. So, because again, living at home afforded me the privilege of being able to save for both, and not have the external stresses that others do have. And so the idea was to be a homeowner by 30, but then COVID happened, unfortunately, so that got pushed back a few years. But we still managed. We were still under 35. I think 32 or so when we owned, which is still a really decent age, considering I don't know what the average age is, but people are a bit older sometimes when they're first buying. And then also for me, it was really important that I bought by myself. It was just my own personal goal that I have my own property. It didn't mind if my husband had a property or what have you, but I wanted to be able to say that I myself have done this by myself, or at least I've raised a deposit and I'm a homeowner in my own right, and not just, oh, my husband has a place, so I'll just join his place and that's fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But it was just, I think, again, that level of independence that my mum instilled in us. And it's a goal achieved. It's really nice for me because I think I went to a few property shows and things like that, and they were like, oh, little lady by yourself, no man in the background. I was like, no, there isn't actually. And it's very possible, I don't know how, but it's very possible for me to do this by myself. I don't need a man. But no, in a sense that it was just a given. They would expect that couples would buy together.
Correct.
And some of the people at the show that were trying to sell were saying like, oh, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult for single people to do it. So challenge accepted. And when me and my brother, both of us, we managed. And I mean, we would still be here, but the process was much easier with your help, obviously. So far less stress, less grey hairs.
No, we're gonna get to that, because I think, and I'm obviously people are listening to this, and some of them are also watching as well. And you've just mentioned doing it by yourself. So that's raising the deposit all by yourself. That's covering, every other cost all by yourself. Because when you're buying a house, it's not just about the deposit. Sometimes people focus a lot on the deposit, but it's more than that. There's a deposit, there's stamp duty, if depending on the price of the property. There's the legal cost, there's a mortgage broker cost, there's removal cost, and there are other surveys you have to carry out, the home buyer survey. There are other things, and there are other things that pop up, which you've also experienced. You're thinking, oh, okay, I see why he said to me, have that contingency plan in place. Now that you decide to go into that loan, which yes, for some people that's not easy, especially for those who want to stay in London. Because you were like, okay, I want to be able to commute to work, and
adamant.
You were adamant. You were adamant. But I want to go back a little bit to your home. When I mean your home before you got married. Talking about your mum. When your mum rang me, when she called, just from the first conversation, I could tell like, wow, this is so amazing. She had instilled some incredible, principles, and she was so disciplined. And she just said to me, Moses, I want my children to be homeowners. Yeah. And I thought, okay. So I thought, oh, are they going to buy? No, I want you to help this one. I want you to help that. And I thought, wow. And she was so adamant that you guys owned your own home, and she didn't really want you renting for such a long time, which was incredible. And you stayed at home. Now there are people who have also come across that the minute they hit 22, 23 after university, okay, let's go rent. They want to move out. How was it for you? Because people are listening to this. How was it for you staying home, even to a certain age, and not really thinking about what people care, really, to be fair? Because would you recommend people stay home a bit longer so they can save more and then venture into the property market?
I think it really depends, to be honest, because for us living in London, it is kind of quite normalized that you stay at home a bit longer, and it's not unheard of or necessarily unusual for, like, say, a 30-year-old or so to be at home, either trying to save, or that's just what they can do, or they just enjoy living at home. It's not unheard of. Whereas in other places, like when I went to visit my cousins in America, they moved out in their early 20s, and it was considered so weird that we still lived at home. And they were like talking to their friends, they're like, you still live at home as a 27-year-old? I was like, yeah, but that's normal in London. It's just standard. And even in other parts of the country, I was hearing like 23, 4, 5-year-olds married, mortgage, kids, and I was like, oh, that's not the norm necessarily in London. So if you have a good home life, obviously, because there's many factors in it, isn't there? You have to have like a good home life, a good relationship with whoever's living there, so your mother, your siblings, your dad, whoever, that sort of thing. There's many factors. So again, I have to say it is privilege. I have a wonderful mother. I'm on great terms with my brothers. Living at home, again, when I first left university, I did want to go out and I did want to rent, because I saw other people doing that and I wanted my independence, and that sort of thing. But my mum She didn't really give me any choice,
Yeah.
to be fair, which, at the time, did I understand it? No. Did I resent it? Yes. Was it the best thing? Yes, it was, because it set me up for later life.
Yeah.
And that understanding comes with maturity. So I was very fortunate, for sure. And I was very fortunate that I could live at home, and my mum, I didn't have to give anything. It was just, I'm living here. I want to contribute. That's just me. I can't come here and, not just sit down. But if I wanted to, I could have. If I said, Mum, I really can't afford to be doing all, she would say, yeah, it's okay. You're still my children. I can still afford to have you here and provide for you. So she had financial stability to be able to keep all three hungry mouths at home. And her only requisite or request was that money that we are being paid from our workplace, we save. We just save. She doesn't mind if we travel too much, travel a little bit, not too much, but so long as we are saving, she wants us to be homeowners by the age of about 30 or so.
Yeah.
And we don't want to disappoint her. So I think I will say she's probably my biggest motivator in that, but not everybody has that. So if you can, if you can manage, I know London is a bit fast paced, it's very social, you want to be going out, spending your money and having your independence, but if you can somehow balance it,
fantastic,
then that's probably, that was my route anyways. And that was my way of being able to buy a little bit earlier than, say, my peers, let's say. So.
Which is good. And obviously, shout out to Mum, no, because I'm saying this because, and also shout out to all the parents out there who are, doing what they can to support their children. Now let's get into your story of now becoming a homeowner. My goodness me.
That story,
18 good months.
Yeah.
Literally, when I'm working with clients, I've heard I've helped a homeowner purchase a property in 56 days. Yeah, 56 days.
Wow, okay.
From auction.
Wow,
with a mortgage.
Yeah.
That was done in 56 days. At first, they just thought, how are you going to do this? They liked the house, and we also did a refurb for them as well. But they just thought, okay, normally we know it takes about, we give ourselves 3 months. I was like, no, this is the one. Yeah. And it was done in 56 days. Now, we've also helped clients to buy properties 3 months, 2 months.
I can't even fathom that, to be honest with you.
4 months. With flats, usually we've done flat work 4 months. Yours took 18.
Yeah.
18 months. So let's go through the story. So we started with a consultation with myself, which is something I do with all my clients, because we want to first of all understand what are your needs, what are your requirements, and what are your goals. Because I believe that if you are purchasing a property, it's not just about saying, I've got a deposit. No. Is there a plan in place? Where you moving to? Can you see yourself in that environment? Can you see yourself, growing a family? Obviously, when we started with you, it was just you.
Wasn't pregnant.
And now,
now I am.
And now it's like, guess what, I'm pregnant. I was like, yay. But if you think about it, we spoke about this years ago. We spoke about, what about baby? What if baby? And because then you guys weren't even married.
No, we weren't. No,
you weren't even married. But we had to talk about everything. So the money side was sorted out. Obviously, we got you the mortgage through our power team, but then we had to now talk about what you can afford, which is something people struggle with sometimes.
Yeah.
This is how I look at it. I would get people who sometimes, it's like, I use an example of a car. I love cars. Now, they've got money for a BMW, for example, or a Mercedes-Benz, but they want you to get them a Ferrari or an Aston Martin. And it's kind of like,
unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't work like that. But I've got 10% deposit. No, it just doesn't work like that. But you were so like, Moses, I want to, go on the ladder, and I've said to you what I said to my clients. Okay, also see this as an investment. So working with you, I wasn't just looking for a property just for you to move in.
Yeah.
It was about, can you also start that wealth creation journey? Because now you're going to get married, you're going to start a family. Your mom's a role model. She's done well. So let's do kind of like something similar. Let's find you a property, your first property, that two things could happen. It can be your deposit for your next property, for your next home, or this can also be your pension pot. You know, we get your property in a nice area. So obviously we did all the searching for you, and, you know, did the viewing, even to get you. I mean, I know you spoke about what you do in the NHS, but even to get you to sit here, has taken over a year.
Yeah, it's taken a while. I tell you, life really just
you know, it's taken such a long time.
over.
Like, your schedule was insane, and I remember you said to me, I understand. Like, I remember you said to me, I don't know if you remember, but you said, Moses, I'm not like my brother, and I'm not like your other clients. You might only get to speak to me between 8 and 9 p.m. And I was just like, the office is closed.
I know. So this is part of the motivation as to why I wanted your service in the first place. It's really tough, obviously, being a shift worker, and I do like nights, I do weekends, I do unsociable hours, and I do 12-hour shifts. It's really not easy to communicate. But communicate with people 9 to 5. It's possible, but like if I have to balance, because obviously you have to sleep after a night shift.
Yes.
I need to be, you know, with a fresh mind and enough energy and what have you because I have responsibility. But at the same time too, I'm trying to move on with my life, and the people that are helping with that, they operate in these times. It was so difficult, and even just to like now sit down and try and find, okay, I want a property. Let me try and look on these websites to see what is out there. What's the ballpark? All this kind of stuff. I need to have energy and time to do that whilst balancing. I had a fiance, I had a wedding to plan. I have obviously friends, family, all this kind of stuff. So there was lots of, things that I had to balance whilst trying to navigate buying a first home. So certainly one of my motivations for having your service is ease. Literally just ease. Obviously it's an additional cost, so that's something I had to weigh up and balance, but for the amount of time that I would save and stress I would not have, it was very much worth it for me, because there was just so much for me to balance and work around. So that's the main motivation for me in that regard. And then also the fact that you were willing to be flexible, that you didn't mind if like we had a business chat or a chat after hours, you know.
It was like, there were times that I'll message you in the morning, and the team messages were like, either the broker, and it's like, we've not had a response. I'm like, that's okay. And then the next morning, we had a chat. When did you speak to Andrea? Yeah, we had a chat about 9:30. So what? So is that AM? I'm like, no, 9:30 p.m.
I've just finished my shift. So like, I've just got home. Like now is the time I can actually talk.
And it's like, have you read through that document? It's like, no, Moses, I just can't. You're gonna have to give it to tomorrow. Oh, actually, or even the day after. But one thing was certain. I was open to be flexible.
Yeah. Because
you were open to be flexible. And like you said, you were so motivated to get this done. And then we were able to, you know, and the good thing, you didn't have to search yourself. You were just like, okay, cool, does this work for you? And then now we saw some properties and we thought, yeah, definitely. We had to just like, no. Because there were some of them I'm like, no. And you just thought, let me still have a look. Because then I wanted you to...
I could build like a picture in my head of what was correct, what was not correct.
That's correct.
And also too, I will mention that what I thought was okay, actually you were like, nah, I don't want that for you. I mean, it's your choice, but if you just look at, because in the future, for example, and I know your mum wouldn't really, and I need to make sure that everything is, so you can look at it, but I wouldn't want this for you. And then you would list the reasons why, and I'd be like, okay, I did not see that angle. I didn't see that angle. Or even like the famous one for me that stuck in my mind when I viewed a property, you were like, yeah, it's okay, but like, where would you put your Hoover? Where's the storage?
Yep.
And I was like, I didn't think about that, actually. Where would I put my Hoover? That's a very good point. Yeah, like, it's not just the space I will live, it's also the space I will need to maintain the place.
Yes.
So, and then I remember a friend of mine was also buying at the time, and she wanted to do it herself. That was her choice. But I was like, yeah, Moses said to me about that. She was like, oh, I didn't think of that either. Okay, that place is not correct then. And things like this.
I love it. She was using the service indirectly.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart.
So, yeah, you also benefited her, by the way.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, that's
but
nice.
yeah, that's something that never left my mind. That yeah, you need to.
And you know what it is, and you'd be amazed how people don't think about these things.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for a long time now, and I've been in properties where, when you walk in to some houses I've seen with my clients, you'll be like, there is no way this is not your house. Like this is it. And then they'll look at it, and we'll go outside, and I'll be like, so did you notice the damp behind that couch? And they're like, what? This house has damp? I'm like, yeah, it does. And did you notice just over there? Did you notice this? Did you see this? Did you see that? And
I only see the big picture.
that's it. It's
You know
like
what I mean?
I just see the bedrooms, I see
Yeah.
the kitchen, and sometimes when we go viewing, when I'm there, I see clients going to the house and they're quite resistant to like going to the room. And I've had there's time I've had to like get in. They're like, but I'm like, get in. If you're gonna buy it, you need to
You
know
have
what
to
you're
see it,
buying.
yeah.
Because what tends to happen is people's emotions sometimes just cloud their judgment. Because they think we had that conversation, and then
I know the conversation you're going to say. The carpet stairs. Oh, God.
and it's like, okay, does it work? You're thinking, because nevertheless, there's room to compromise.
Yeah.
But the compromise is because of the plans in place.
Yeah.
So let's reason. So let's go into this now. Saw the property, and while we're helping you to buy a house, the property market was literally crazy.
Yeah.
House prices were so high, interest rates low. And literally a property that was worth say 230 was on the market for 260,
Yeah.
for example. And then you were like, well, you saved my brother 17 grand. And you're like, well, okay, so hopefully there's something you can do with this. And then and remember,
No, I think you saved him more and saved me 17 grand, actually.
so I can't even,
Yeah.
your one, you're trying to fast forward now because yo, boy, he was like,
It was definitely thousands. Let's put it that
yeah,
way.
yeah,
So
it was
for both of
thousands.
us.
But I know it was, yours, you moved in with some serious equity,
Yeah.
which is like, wow. So when we found this property for you, looked at it, and we actually spent time, talking about it. But if you notice, the angle I came across this time was more of a starter home and an investment.
Yeah.
If you notice, it was more like, okay, cool. And I started asking the question, when is baby coming? And you guys weren't even married.
I was like, relax.
Matthew was like, Moses,
Let me reach one milestone first.
Matthew was like, you better chill, boy. Like, what? We're never married yet. Do you know how much wedding cost? But I was like, okay, I understand that, but okay. So when you get a car, you're probably going to get a car. Yes. Okay, cool. And we were looking at a commute for you. Like we did not play.
Yeah.
And you were like, I need to be able to walk to the station.
That was something I would not compromise on.
It was kind of like,
because if you're doing a 12-hour shift and now have a
That's
20-minute walk or bus journey from
Makes
the
no
station or
sense.
whatever, it's just too much.
Yeah.
With the stress of work, and it's just, and then this country, it rains. I was like, I need something that is close by with good in fact, my list was long.
gosh. Oh,
not
man.
that it was long, but it was very precise.
It was
and very
precise.
specific.
Yeah.
I need close to the station.
Yep.
In fact, I actually wanted a one bed. I think you convinced me to try and see if there's what's around for two.
Correct.
It needed to be good transport links to my workplace, to also my husband's workplace as well, in a decent area. I can't be, scared for my life and all this kind of stuff, because I will have to come home late sometimes, and that sort of thing. And then, family friendly, you know, and in London, and in my budget.
And you were like, oh, by the way, has to be near the underground. And I was like,
I didn't want a train station.
When I saw your list, the first time I saw the list, I was just like, okay, All right.
I didn't mean for you to have your work cut out. Honestly, I didn't mean. But this is why I couldn't do it by myself. Okay, I could have done it by myself, but it would take me a very long time.
I saw the list, and I remember we spoke, and I was like, yeah, it's we can do it. And you're like, I remember you saying, "Are you sure, Moses?" Because you were like, no, let me not, just tell me if I'm exaggerating. I'm like, no, we can make it work, but we'll see how we can make it work. When we got this house, obviously we got it through the agent. You started to understand how agents work as well. And then we started the process. We got you the mortgage. We got, it was all done. And then we started we went through everything. We made sure, okay, hopefully this will be changed. We spotted that things, not just internally, but externally as well. Yeah. We looked at the area, we looked at the development. And you remember when we did the viewing, there was a lady who fortunately came out.
You say lady, she was a grandma.
Okay, she was a grandma. Oh my gosh.
No, but like...
Actually, that's right. She needs to be young. Remember, that's what I'm saying. She's a lady. She was a grandma.
A grandma that felt safe, which is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and I said to you, I want to show you something. And you're like, yeah. I'm like, come. I want to talk to this lady. You're like, okay. And it was random. I said, hi, how are you? Good afternoon. I told her what I do for a living, looking to move in here. And I started interviewing her. Why did you move in here? She told us why. Then we said, why did you stay? And she became African. She's like, the station is down here. This is that. Where should I
can do my shopping.
I can do my shopping.
After dark.
I can walk after dark. My children, and she goes, my church is not far. Where else? I think she'd been here for 10 years.
Yeah, she has.
And I'm like, you've been I mean, I know about renting for she'd been renting in that, place for 10 years. And she just said, because I thought, I'm doing this for you. I wanted you to hear someone in that building talk about their lifestyle. And she was like, I'm not. And I was like, any plans to move anytime soon? She goes, move where? Go to where? To where? And she's like, Asda is there. Tesco is there. Sainsbury's here. Morrison. And she literally, I was like, we've done our research. We know that already. Yeah. But it was just nice I think it was also nice for you to hear from someone who's even older, who was so concerned about safety as well, saying she's never had any issues.
She was wondering who we were before we even came to her. Exactly. So we now came to just reassure her that we're not anything dodgy. And then she was like, oh, okay, fine. And that's when she started speaking.
Because she got interviewed on the spot. Yeah. And she didn't even plan to be interviewed. She just got interviewed on the spot. So we started the process. Now, I want you to just talk us through, because you said to me at one point, after it took months and months, we started the process and we were chasing up the agents and the solicitor, and then the seller. The seller was one of the most, I've not actually experienced a seller like that.
It's like he didn't want to sell.
It's like, it
was so bizarre.
It's kind of like, okay, what do you want? Obviously negotiated, we got discounted property. That's number one, which you were happy with that. Yeah. And we thought, brilliant, okay. But the response, all of a sudden, they've changed, Andrea, just to let you know, they've changed their solicitor. And then I was working so close with our solicitor that we appointed to you. Then they went quiet. 6 months went by. And we were nowhere close. And then I spoke to my solicitor and I said, you know what, this is a flat. There's certain things I think I would love her to have. And I proposed it. And she goes, actually, Moses, that's a good idea. Did a variation because of the management pack. And then that was when it started. When we started asking more questions, they would be reluctant and we were pushing. 8 months down the line, we're still pushing. All of a sudden, that solicitor is no longer on the case. I'm like, and then I'm on the phone because this is when it got me. And you said to me, Moses, I don't care anymore. We can start looking for another property. Yep. I'm not interested.
I was
if
done.
You carry on.
I was done. But you obviously, you have to understand it from my point of view.
Yes.
I had now married.
Yes.
And I had expected that, because I've spoken to friends and stuff. Yep. The longest people have told me 6 months.
Yes.
Maybe 9 months, but because both there was a chain or something, that sort of thing.
Fair enough. Chain.
I had no chain.
Nothing.
I was ready there and then to move in. I was getting married. I had now married. and me and my husband are not living in the property.
No.
And then I'm getting external pressure. My mum's like, what's happening? If it's taking too long, find somewhere else.
Yeah.
Is it the only place that you can buy all this kind of stuff? And I was like, that's a very valid point. And if it is going to take too long, like, is it even worth it? All this stress of, I'm now a newly married lady, I'm still working. I've told people I'm buying, and they're asking me, oh, but it's what's happening?
You know that saying? 12 years later.
Exactly. It was literally like that meme, exactly like that. And so it was just I was getting very, very, very frustrated because now me and my husband are renting, thankfully, a property from his mother, so we don't have to sign any contracts or anything like that. But it was getting to the stage where we were having conversations like, should we just go and rent? But if we now rent, we'll be locked into a contract for like 6 to 12 months. Correct. Which I don't want to pay double money on properties, you know. So it was becoming really, really tense for me, and I found myself under a lot of pressure to be like, should I just cut my losses? You know. But with obviously your guidance and encouragement, I didn't, and I also like spoke to myself and to God, and I was just kind of like, do I just have faith? And the response I got back.
Now that you mentioned, I was actually going to ask you the question. How did you apply your faith? Obviously, as a Christian, someone who believes in God, you know, how did you apply your faith into this situation? Because there was time, you know, yes, we prayed about it, you know, there was encouragement in there, but it was still you. It was still going to come from you. Because the motivation was there from the get-go, and you got it. Okay, we love it, and we spoke about what was going to happen to the property after. You know, we were like, you could do this. Remember what we were saying? Oh, you can do this, and even the agent was like, yeah, and you can live this, and obviously you can just tell the guy just wanted to sell. And but how did you apply your faith? Because the reason I'm asking this question is because there's someone listening out there thinking, you know, or they could be in the same situation. And this could be an encouragement to them, thinking, you know what, that's true, man. You know, because prayer is powerful.
Prayer is powerful.
So how did you apply your faith into this situation?
I mean, he hasn't let me down before. So even as what I mentioned earlier about like going to these property shows and these people being like, oh, I don't know if you can do it a single person alone. And I was like, I think I can. I think, you know, I'm going to just see what I can do, speak to God and see what happens. Let me put my faith there and see what happens. And if it's not forthcoming, okay, but it was forthcoming. And then I also said to God, like, yeah, but this looks like a lot. It's very complicated. Do I have the time, the capacity, and not intelligence, but like I just didn't have the attention span to fully do due diligence on this kind of environment. So I asked God again, like, how am I going to do this, Father? This is too much for me to do with the time that I have and the working patterns that I have and all this kind of stuff. I will need some help. Somehow you turned up. So I was like, okay, provided for. Thank you. Done. So that was the beginning bit, then you. And then I was again with my very precise list. And, you know, I'd spoken to other people and they're like, oh, you're going to have to compromise somewhere. And I was like, but I don't want to compromise. Like, I think it's possible. Like, I've always had in my life, I'm close to a station, at least a 10-minute walk. I don't want to compromise because with the work that I do, sometimes it is really awful and I just need to get home. So I was like, God, you know the work that I do, you know the heart that I have, you know the amount of energy and effort I put into other people. Can I have some of that back, please? And so you being like, it's definitely possible. Let's see what can be done. And then this property kind of fell into our lap. It was within budget. It was all the things that I said I wanted, a 2-bed, nice property, nice area, all this kind of stuff. It was like almost winning the jackpot. And I said to myself again, I have not been failed. I have asked and he has provided. So in terms of my faith, I just put my faith in God. Literally, I was like, Father, how you'll do it, I don't really know. But kindly, please, can I have it done? please, can I have it done? Because, you know, at this time, I'm really trying to like hold everything together with trying to, you know, being a newly married lady, what does that even look like, while still doing shift patterns and being stressed? And my brother has just bought a property, and I'm still waiting for my own, and all this kind of stuff. So for me, I can't speak on anybody else, but for myself, it literally was just having a direct conversation with God. This is my desire. This is what I want for myself. Is it possible? I never got a no. I never got failed. I never got yes, but wait. Well, I had to wait, but like not like years. Do you know what I mean? And even when I asked him, it really is taking time. I've got a lot of external pressure. Should I cut my losses? My family, my friends, they're saying, if they're being really wishy-washy, like they're wasting your time, perhaps it's appropriate. You were saying otherwise, but you were the only one saying otherwise, So I was like, Father, like the majority are saying I should just stop. Moses is saying, let's try, let's continue, like it can be done. And I never heard it back that I should stop. So I took that as a continue, basically, and I will be rewarded. And I was rewarded. And in fact, actually, I was more than rewarded, because you were able to save me so much money that I was able to renovate like there and then. So I didn't have to wait and build up my money a bit more. I could actually renovate, and still have money left over. So for me, it's all reassurance for me. If I continue to put my faith in the Lord, wonderful things can happen, and my heart's desires can be achieved, and I can achieve my goals. So for me, I can only really say it's God. Do you know what I mean? Like, I have the drive to some extent, but did I know what I was doing? No. But he put things in place. That's my belief anyways. He put things in place to ensure that I got to where I needed to be, and more so than I was expecting. Because honestly, I was expecting some crummy one bed, maybe a studio in some dark, dingy place of London that I couldn't really bring my mum home to, but it would be like a starter place. And but actually, like, it's a really lovely place.
Is it? I mean,
a really, really lovely place.
It was nice to actually come back to it and just see, even though I'm beefing your cat.
Leave my cat alone.
I'm
please.
beefing your cat. I'm good with animals, and do you want to come say hello? Watch next time. But thank you for sharing that, because myself, I did exactly the same thing, and I think I'm not just a property consultant, entrepreneur, investor, developer. No, I'm also a child of God. So when I do these things for people, I don't rely on just my strength, my power team. I also rely on God as well, and I pray for all my clients. And I know with yours, when it got to like a year, and we had to renew the mortgage offer, I think, but twice. And I think our broker was like, "You are," and what I got from this was, the broker was like, "Wow, you are fighting this like it's personal." And I was like, "Yeah." I'm like this, and that's how I treat every single client.
You even had your wife praying for me.
My wife was praying. My wife was literally, and it's interesting because we celebrated. By the way, we traveled. we got you the house, but we traveled. Just like, let's go celebrate.
But it is such an achievement. Isn't
it is an amazing achievement. And and obviously we were dealing with the agent as well. You can imagine we were dealing with the pressure. The good thing about this is that you never had to speak to people. You were just like, I just said to you, carry on with work. Because first of all, I understood the lifestyle. I understood what your work was like. And remember, and you guys got married. It was like, I know you're married, but it's going to happen. And obviously the goal was that when you get married, you spend you go back to your new home. But that didn't happen. I was like, but you know what? I know it didn't happen as planned. There were things out of our hands. And I love the fact that you saw that there were external factors, but we were pushing. We were asking for things like, no, we are fighting the corner for our clients. And we got what we wanted from them. I remember going to the solicitor. I actually went to the solicitor's office, and she said to me, I'll be right back. And I didn't know what she was. I thought she was bringing just tea. And she goes, by the way, I want to show you something. And then she brought this file, and she goes, this is Andrea's file. And I was like, you got some work to do, haven't you? She's like, whoa. And she said to me, okay, we've done this for years, but you are fighting for this lady. It's coming to 18 months and you've not stopped. At one point, we felt like agent sold the property to someone else because they started acting a bit funny and not responding. And I got to like really find, I'm like, have you sold it to someone else? And I was like, no, it's ours. When we finally got you this property, it had increased in value by £50,000.
Yeah, which is insane.
Crazy.
It's insane.
Like you moved in, you were buying a house.
Yeah.
Normally you wait, you do it up, you do things.
Yeah.
You know, you wait.
Or you add value by doing
you add
it up
value.
and
That's
stuff.
what I do.
Yeah.
That's what I do for my investors. You know, we
Right.
buy property, we add value to it, and increase the value. You know, in the space of 6 months, yours had gone up automatically due to the market. So when we handed over the keys, it was kind of like, Andrea, by the way, just to let you know, not only did we save you
Extra
money,
cherry on top.
not only did we save you money on the property, your property have gone up in value by so amount of money. And it was kind of like, it was worth the wait. Yeah. You know, it was really, really worth the wait. And I want to also say thank you for trusting myself, my company, and Announced Property, just for trusting us to work closely with you, because not a lot of people, and I can tell you this right now, not a lot of people would have been paid that, would have waited that long. And yes, we can always give you the information and the recommendation, but we can't give you the advice.
Yeah.
You have to make the decision yourself. And you stood with it and you said, you know what, I'm gonna get this done. And then when I came to visit not too long ago, it was just nice. Like I looked at the front, you were like, yeah, it's not changed, and it's not changed. It's like the carpet. The communal carpet is gone. It's changed. They're still doing this.
Almost didn't buy that property because of the communal
Because of
carpet.
the carpet. I was like, yeah, look beyond this. Look beyond this. It's like, it's gone.
And Moses was like, you're not buying the communal carpet.
You know, I'm like, you're not buying the communal carpet. Come on.
But it was that bad. To be fair, it was that bad.
It was bad. But
Yeah.
then you said something to me. You said someone had been fighting for that to be changed for what? How many
6 years.
6 years. You moved in, and within what?
Within a
A
year,
year,
it
it was
had been
changed. When you
yeah.
talk about favor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, you know, I went in and I was just like, wow, look at what you guys have
Yeah.
done. And I mean, the way you made good use of the space, because we spoke about different things you could do, but I'm also glad that you saw the vision. You thought, you know what, let's make it work. It's lovely.
Because that was another thing. I think another thing for me, it wasn't on the list per se, but it was
Yes.
definitely on the periphery in a sense that I needed a space where I could, so there's certain amenities that I didn't want to do without.
Yes.
And in my mother's house, one of the best things she ever did for us was to get a dryer. I don't know how people are surviving without it, but like that dryer was such a blessing to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to my husband and to Moses that like, yeah, I want a dryer,
Yep.
full stop. And my
Yep.
husband was like, I don't know if it's possible because we're on the second floor and some technicality, whatever. And I don't really understand it. I was like, no, that's what I want. We'll have to find a way, full stop.
Yeah.
And he was just like, well, you know, because my dad's in the business and you have to fix it externally. And I was like, I'm sure technology has advanced somehow. I want a dryer. I don't want to have to hang my clothes up in this damp England. I want a dryer. That's number one. Number two, I want a dishwasher. Full
Yeah.
stop. Like, I can clean dishes by hand, of course. I
Yeah.
am well home trained, I would say, but I don't want to because like we're both busy professionals. Why do we have to? We just don't have to is all I'm saying. Like if I'm buying a new place, I want to be able to adjust it to my time and lifestyle, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I needed to find a space that I could do that with, really. And it was a bit whether it was going to happen, but we made it work. And now
Yeah.
it's fab. It's got a little mini dishwasher. It's got a dryer. It's got a washing machine. I'm set up. And
Yeah.
also like in terms of just future ideas for the property, if I want to rent it,
Yeah.
this makes it more rentable, you know.
Correct,
If I
correct.
want to buy it, this also makes it more buyable, you know, and all that kind of stuff, because it's definitely a positive to have
Yeah.
those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for those watching and those listening and those who inspire to become a homeowner, what encouragement can you share with them? Just to, you know, because I've spoken to quite a lot of people, and you'd be amazed that the people we've helped. I've helped people who have had a dream for 20 years, and I'm like, wow. I've had someone cry. I've had, oh gosh, there've been tears. And I know there's things out there, don't buy your home, rent. And hey, people are open to their own, then, you're entitled to your own opinion. But what is one thing you would like to share to people who are thinking, I've heard your story, you know what, and I also believe that it is possible for me. So what would you like to share to them?
It's definitely possible. I think there's a level of patience that is required for sure. There's also a level of faith that you need to have, because obviously it's not a simple process. You do have to be able to trust your solicitors, your broker, all these kind of external people that are the ones to help you actually get your name on the property. And then also I would just say, like, give yourself chance. I think it's, why don't you just have a look and see, like, my budget wasn't a lot, and a lot of naysayers were like, oh, you're not going to get much for that. And I was like, well, I'm going to see what I can get first and foremost. Let me not already take myself out of the game before it's even started. Let me go and see what is there. And actually there was a lot of rubbish, of course, but there was quite a few gems out there as well. So why don't you just have a look, give yourself a chance. Definitely use a service like this if you can't be dealing with all the external, especially greasy estate agents and all this. Yeah, I don't want to talk to these people who makes you feel gross.
Saying all agents are bad. There's some good ones. I'm
sure there are some very amazing ones. Just the ones that I came into contact with, unfortunately, lived up to the stereotype, which is a shame. So thankfully, Moses was there to run interference. But yeah, why don't you just start? Have a look, see what's out there with whichever budget, and see what you can achieve there, if that makes sense. Because it only takes one property. To be fair, if you're looking for one property, there's plenty out there, and it just takes one decent one that you can maybe see the vision. It might be a fixer-upper, perhaps, or maybe it's slightly further afield than you expected, but certainly there's something out there. So just block out all the external people, all the naysayers, have a look for yourself and see, like, is it actually possible? Or maybe it's possible, but in a few years, fine, but at least you know. At least you have a plan, and then save, come back to it, what have you. But if I had listened to a lot of people, I would have got some, let's say a one bed, for example, in maybe a new build. I would have had like one of those government schemes that I don't necessarily believe in, which may or may not have had inferior building properties and things like that, and needed a lot of work post buying and stuff like that, because you do hear those stories. That could have been the trajectory I could have gone down, so go and see for yourself what is out there. Perhaps look into using a service like this just to give you some guidance. It is extra money, of course, but peace of mind is almost priceless, isn't it? So
nice. So if you were to buy, when you buy your other property, would you consider using?
I'm not considering. I'm doing. I'm not considering. There's no consideration. I'm not. To be honest with you, to this day, I still don't even know how I bought this place. Do you know what I mean? Like I have friends who they've done it themselves and they don't know, but I know it caused them far more stress and headache than it caused me, let's say. I was able to work full time, get married and all this other stuff without too much, fear or what have you. And there was fear, but other people had their hands on this project as well. It wasn't just, I'm the only decision maker here. And that was very freeing and reducing of stress, so that's just me.
Wow. Andrea, thank you so much. That after 18 months it took you 18 months to get there, but you held on. and that dream became a reality. So I want to just say thank you so much for finally coming to sit with me and to have this conversation. And I'm sure people watching or listening have definitely been encouraged. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment. What are you going through? For those of you who are about to purchase your home, or for those of you who've actually purchased your property, what challenges are you facing, or what challenges did you face? So leave a comment, and we hope to see you again.